Welcome to Steph's Creations and welcome to the Wizard of Oz series. In this video, I'm going to show you how I made this Wicked Witch inspired costume. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And all the supplies except the fabric will be in my Amazon storefront in the link below. And if you choose to recreate this costume, please, I'm begging you, tag me so I can sing your praises and I can be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Or you can still just follow me on social media and say hi. And before I ramble too much, let's get to the video. So we start off with heating up our ABS plastic and molding it on to the mannequin. I go into more depth of how I did this in my Glinda costume. So to get the in-depth of how to do this, definitely head over there and check it out and then come back here so we can do the rest of this costume. Just like the Glinda corset, I put masking tape all over the ABS plastic and I draw out my patterns and I mark them 1, 2, 3 and I cut it out. Once that's done, I place them onto a piece of cardboard and I will cut them out with a 3/8 seam allowance so that when I sew them together, it can fit to the corset. To get symmetrical sides, I took a piece of fabric and I traced over the side that I had already cut onto the piece of fabric. And once that was all traced out, I cut out the little stencil that I had made so that could help me trace on to the side that I had not cut a symmetrical side. So it can be, you know, symmetrical. And once that's done, I use the heating gun. Once again, with the heating gun, please make sure you're an adult. If you're a child, do not use it, please. But yeah, heating the plastic and then cutting helps a lot. But again, I don't recommend using ABS plastic for this. If Worbla is available, use that. Like, it wasn't available when I was doing this, so use Worbla. Cut out my pattern pieces, and as I'm seeing here, I did leave a little extra room on the bottom, and I'm guessing the pattern pieces that were going to be on the sides so that when I do glue it onto the bodice, I can fold it over comfortably. And learning from our mistakes, I am going to iron on some fusible fabric onto all of my pattern pieces so nothing seeps through. You see how we learn from our mistakes. If you want to know what the mistake is, definitely head to the Glinda video. And see, all my pattern pieces have some fusible fabric on them. Then I'm going to line up all my pieces together and I'm going to pin them up so that they will be ready for sewing. And when it comes to sewing, I just straight stitch all the pieces together. Very easy, very simple. And once that's all done, it should look like this. See, look at that bodice ready for ironing. So we're just going to iron all the seams, iron them nice and flat. Press them seams out. Press them seams out. Would that be how you say it? I don't know. I'm a beginner sewer, okay? Like, we are learning together. This is all about learning, okay? But yeah, so once I'm finished ironing, I am going to first use the same glue that I used for the Glinda piece. I don't know why I didn't show you all the glue I used in this video, but I'm going to use the same glue that I used for the Glinda piece, and I'm not going to glue on the main fabric yet. I am going to glue on a thin piece of regular fabric first on it, just not trying to make the same mistake as I did in the last video. I know I keep on bringing this mistake up. Like, it's like I was so devastated when it happened. I was just like, oh my gosh, what I've been trying to do for 5 years will not come true because I did this. But no, we learn from our mistakes. So once I do that, I just cut that thin piece of fabric. It was just scrap fabric that I had laying around. I feel like once you start sewing, you will like have a bunch of scrap fabrics all around, so it's not going to be seen. And once that's glued on, now I'm going to take some fabric glue and I am going to spread it on the bodice, just squeeze and spread with a paintbrush. And now it's time to put on our main fabric piece. So with the fabric glue, we're still going to use the paintbrush in places that we missed, and we're just going to take our main fabric and smooth it over the bodice, the ABS plastic bodice. So yeah, and when it comes to all the other pieces, you know, you're going to take your time and smooth it in. And what you're going to do, see, this is what I said, like, I know I put extra pieces on the edges of the fabric so I can easily hot glue it in place and fold it over. I don't think I showed this in the Glinda part, so I am so sorry. But yes, so this makes it easy to fold it over. I did this one after, I made this one after the Glinda one, and I learned from my mistakes. This is what this channel is all about. We make mistakes and we learn and we move forward. It doesn't stop us from making beautiful things. But an important thing is when it comes to these corner pieces, you are going to want to put some extra hot glue there, like in the folds, so you know that it stays there very secure. So you're going to want to put some extra hot glue there, as you can see me doing in this video. And once you're done with all of that, it's going to look like this. Look at us. We are done with one half. Now it's time for decoration. So the first thing I do is pin up this trim all over the bottom of the bodice. And once that's all pinned in place where I would like it, I take my hot glue and I put the hot glue, line it there on there, and I place the trim over it. So a no-sew portion, and I just follow it along with hot glue, placing the trim all over the bottom of the bodice. And once I'm done with that part, I cut the trim at the middle point of the bodice, just a little bit over, just in case I have to do something with it, but I ended up not having to do anything. And I do the same thing to the other side of the bodice, placing hot glue and putting the trim all over it and cutting it in the middle of the bodice. So pretty easy, pretty simple. Now we're gonna make our Baroque pieces. Y'all know I don't know how to say that word, but we're gonna make these pieces. And if y'all seen other videos, I've done it before there, but we'll do it again now. So it's made out of hot glue. So I put hot glue into silicone molds of the Baroque pieces, and I really try to get as close as I can to the mold so there's no air bubbles. And I move the mold around. I even bend it a little bit so there is no air bubbles whatsoever in our piece. And once it's all cooled down, I take it out of the mold and I trim any excess hot glue that might have spilled over. That's okay, it'll cool off and it'll just be easy to even sometimes tear it off, or cut it if you need to. But once it's all trimmed and nice looking, it's time to paint. I first go over with black paint as our first layer. And when I'm doing this, I'm really just trying to get the paint all over. I'm not really trying to make it look nice because we are gonna do a second layer. So I'm just trying to get the paint onto the hot glue silicone mold of the Baroque pieces. Now for our second layer, I'm going to use this mica dark green powder and I'm gonna mix it with the black paint to give us our little good dark green paint. And I'm going to paint that on top of the black layer of the Baroque piece, and that just gives it a little spooky vibe to me. I really like the way it looked and turned out. Tell me what you guys think. Now I'm going to hot glue the back of the pieces, and I am going to place them on either sides of the middle of the bodice, just like this, kind of orientating them to kind of fit as best as they can, because it's the same side. I wish they were like double-sided. So yeah, so I just have to make it work the best that I can. I wish they were left side, right side, but I think they're just one side, which I should have thought about that. But we powered through, so I'm just gonna place them on, as y'all can see me doing here. Now I'm going to take this Warbler plastic, the plastic y'all should use for the bodice, and I'm going to cut it up into strips. Use this thermoplastic. I'm not sponsored, but it is so much easier and more flexible to use. Yes, not sponsored, but I highly recommend. I heat up the Warbler thermoplastic, and once it's heated up, it's way easier to heat up and more flexible to use, just easier to use than the ABS black plastic. And again, if you're a kid, you let the heat gun be saved for adults. But yes, I'm going to take the heated up Warbler plastic, and I'm just going to mold it into like a cylindrical form in my hands. Look at my nails, aren't they cute? But yeah, once it's like to a form that I like and it's still bendable, it's still warm, I'm going to take that over to my bodice. As you can see, I did wrap my bodice in saran wrap, and I'm going to take it to my bodice, and then I'm going to place it onto my bodice over like the boobie area and the sides. And I'm just like gonna make it look like roots, like tree roots, and add them together, placing them on there. And I also tape up the hot glue Baroque pieces. I put extra tape there because since the Warbler plastic is hot and the pieces are made with hot glue, I just don't want it to get heated up and start melting. And I also use hot glue to just add some more rooty pieces just to make it more dynamic and more like, different textures. So I remove the Warbler pieces, the rooty pieces, and I start to paint them black, of course. And I'm just going to go over them with paint, just at least getting the paint on there really well, because we are going to go in with a second layer of paint, so because sometimes the paint be like kind of transparent, so I always go in with a second layer of paint so it's not transparent and it's as opaque as possible. Now I'm going to take this brooch that I got from Amazon, and I'm going to cut out the same fabric that I used to make the bodice. I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to glue it onto this foam piece of paper, like foam paper, and it's fabric glue. So I take the fabric glue and I spread it out on the foam piece of paper. It doesn't have to be like the whole piece of like foam paper, just a little bit, just big enough to have the brooch be glued on there. So yeah, and finding the midpoint of where I glued the fabric onto the foam piece of paper, I now place the brooch on there. And once that's on there nice and secured, I cover around the brooch with E6000 glue. And I do this because the brooch was like kind of smaller than I would like it to be. So to kind of expand it to make it a bit bigger, I take my rhinestone chains and I wrap it around the brooch. I wrap like 3 layers around the brooch, and this gets it to a size that I like. But if you get a big brooch, then you don't need to do this part. And once that's all done, I cut out the brooch from the foam piece of paper, and it is just to my liking with all the rhinestones. I really think it's fit right in with the rest of the bodice. Isn't it pretty? Yay! And now we are going to glue our new brooch in the middle point of our bodice. Just like in the Glinda bodice, I placed the brooch in the middle of the chest. I really think this like brooch for each like character, I think it looks like kind of connects them together, like they're both from Oz, both the leading women of Oz, and yeah, I liked it. And so in the middle portion of the bodice, I am going to use black hot glue, not the clear one, to now place all these mosaic glass pieces. I absolutely love this part of the bodice, these mosaic glass pieces. It just gives it just an extra oomph to it. Like, it's different. I really loved adding these pieces onto the bodice. I would like to tell y'all that it took this long to do it, but no, obviously you can tell that this clip is sped up like crazy. It did take a minute to place all these glass pieces in the middle of the bodice. When it came to putting the pieces around the brooch, I did have to carefully pick out pieces that were kind of curved. So I had to look for the curved pieces and then glue them to curve around the brooch. So that also does take time. So this is how slow it took me to place all these glass pieces onto the bodice. But it was worth it. I think it was worth it. I think it came out really beautiful. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Now I'm going to remove, honestly, the best way to remove the saran wrap from the warbler root pieces is to cut them. Don't just rip it off like you see me doing in this video. Don't do that. Yeah, look at me. I'm smart now. I bring the scissors out and start cutting out the saran wrap pieces. Yeah, just cut in the pieces of the gaps. That's so much easier, and it is actually better because you may rip your hard work, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, and once that's all done and cut out, I now glue my root pieces with the black hot glue so it can just blend better with the corset, just in case anything seeps out. And I glue that onto the bodice of my corset. I let it overlap the glass pieces and the Baroque pieces, just like it's like crawling out. It's like, I'm grabbing it. I don't know. I just love how this bodice turned out. I really loved how it turned out. Okay, now we're gonna make the loops for the corset it, and we're gonna draw out the ABS on the ABS plastics. Actually use ABS plastic for this because you want the loops to be strong and sturdy. So I draw out what I'm gonna cut out, and I end up cutting a bunch of them, and I did 5 on each side. So you want to cut out 10 loops or 10 strips, and I heat up those strips. So once those strips are heated, and again, remember, an adult for this part. So I'm going to loop it around a D-ring, and once it's looped around, I'm going to take this silicone mat and press it into the other side of it. I do this so I know that it is on there, like, very sturdy. I'm just gonna let it cool down as I press it in, and I'm gonna do it here again so y'all really see what I'm doing. So I just press it in together, and I press basically until it's cooled down, so I know that it's just on there and stuck. And once that's done, I am going to take E6000 and I'm going to place that in the middle of the ABS plastic. I do trim it a bit. As you can see, it's smaller. And then I'm going to put hot glue on either side of the E6000. And I do this because I saw somewhere that if you do this kind of mixture, the hot glue will have it stuck so you can still work on the rest of the project. And then the E6000 will have it stuck for the rest of forever. I don't put fabric in the back of the bodice because when I was putting on the loops, some of the glass pieces started falling off as I was messing around with it. So I didn't want to mess around with it too much. Sorry, as I all know, I like my glass pieces. And now it's time to make our skirt. So I watched another creator's YouTube video to kind of help me out with the pattern making of the skirt. I just don't make a gathered portion for the slits. I sketch out, I just sketch out where I want my slit to be because this skirt was not going to be gathered. I am going to tag and put the creator's video in the description of this video, and y'all just tell her that I sent y'all. So I cut out my pattern pieces for my skirt. I just layer, I just fold it and cut on the fold for my lining pieces and my main fabric pieces. And once that's all cut out, it's going to look like this, a pile of fabric. But you know what the pile of fabric is. LOL. So I take my front piece pattern and I placed it onto the main fabric for the front piece and the lining for the front piece on there, so I can cut out where the slit is going to be. And I placed my slit a bit off center so that, you know, my leg can be out and I can be like, out, pa-pow, my leg is out, look at it, and it's green, pa-pow, yeah, hee hee hee. So I'm going to pin the slit together, and I'm going to pin it wrong side to wrong side. And once it's all pinned, I am just going to sew that slit part. Yeah, I'm going to sew the slit part together. And once they're all sewed together, I am just going to flip it around so it is right side out, and it's going to look like this. So the raw edges are on the inside of the garment. For the back piece of the skirt, I do pin my main fabric and my lining fabric for the back together, and I am going to sew them together before sewing this part of the fabric to the other side, the front side of the skirt. So I take both halves of the skirt, the front and the back, and I pin them together lengthwise so I can just straight stitch them down the length of the skirt together. So now two are now a one piece. And once that's all done, I'm going to make like a bias tape for the waistline part of my skirt. So I just cut a piece of the main fabric and I cut it to the length of the, like, my circumference of my waist, and I just pin it to the waist of the fabric. And once it's all pinned, I sew it to the front of the, no, I sew it to the back of the fabric so I can fold it over and sew it to the front of the fabric. So I literally just do it like it's bias tape. On the side of the skirt where I haven't sewed it together, I am going to sew it together up onto the point where I will put my zipper. And you can see that I stopped sewing right as I approach the zipper right there. So I'm going to just back stitch it and close that stitch up. And so for the zipper, I do pin an invisible zipper. I'm not the best at sewing zippers on. It's usually kooky crazy, but it gets the job done. So I just pin it up to the zip part, and then I will stitch it as close as I possibly can to the zipper. I pin the other side of the zipper and I stitch it up too. Again, stitching as close as I possibly can, doing my best. But at the end of the day, we still have a functional zipper. It zips up and down, so it did what it needed to do. The best we can, that's all we can do. For the last part, oh my gosh, I just hem the skirt. I fold it in and I pin the ends of the skirt so I can feed it through the sewing machine. Again, we just straight stitch it up, and we are going to fold it once again to hem it really well, and we fold it again so we can run it through the sewing machine one last time. And there you have it. Oh my gosh, it's done. And this is how the finished product should look, all black and green and wicked. And oh my gosh, you completed it. It's amazing. I already know it. I have seen it because you tagged me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.